Welcome to Quantity Solving Seminar on the Art of Taking Off Unnecessary Adjustments. We go through the seminar, the presentation. There's a main mention of some adjustments we need to consider when we are doing our taking off. Some of them are adjustment to balancing guards for length and breadth where center to center dimension is not taken. Adjustment to balance backfilling quantities, that is excess to remove from site. Adjustment for openings and a subsequent addition as revealed in finishing quantities. Then we have adjustment to remove pockets from concrete quantity and subsequent addition for provision as a work item. The last adjustment that will be teaching, that will be illustrating today is adjustment for bar lap for reinforcement beyond 12-meter length. In order to illustrate all these adjustments, I will use a simple rectangular drawing with length of 14.45 meter by 13.45. The width of trench 675 mm. The thickness of the grey slab is 150 mm thick. The drawing has a design two door of 1.2 meter width, window of 2.4 meter width. Now, the first form of adjustment I will mention is adjustment to balancing guard for length and breadth where center to center dimension is not taken. Adjustment to balance in guard where center to center dimension is not taken. For this, I'm going to make use of our Excel. Now, the first fundamental thing is for us to do is to calculate our main guard. So we take our length of 14.45 in two places. That is 14.45 our length. The one in north, one at the south for our external wall. Then we have our breadth of 13.45, one in north and one in south, one in east and one in west. So the length and breadth gave us 28.9 and 26.9 respectively. Now we also have our internal wall. Internal wall, horizontal part of it, which is also 14.45. And we have vertical wall, 1.15, two numbers of them. So now the first form of adjustment is adjustments to balance, to remove excess for where center to center dimension is not taken. Now, when we are doing when we take care of our length of 14.45, it means a portion of half of 255 here to center here has already been taken care of in 4 places. Half of 255 in 4 places That is why we have deduction for junction. Half of 225 in 4 places will give us 2,225, 450 for externally, that is the main, this 4 corner. Likewise, the internal partitioning wall also, we need to make deduction for the adjunction, which is half of 225 in 2 places, which is why we have 1,225. So this explains the first form of adjustment that we will consider, that is adjustment to balancing guard for length and breadth, where center to center dimension is not taken. So we'll be using this guard of 71.875 to determine our excavation quantity, our leveling and compacting quantity, concrete foot in foundation, and the blinding work in foundation. Now, another form of adjustment we may mention is adjustments to balance backfilling quantity. In order to determine our backfilling quantity, we need to first get our excavation, which is using our guard of 71.875, the width of 675, and depth of 950 mm. So this gives our gross excavation quantity of 46.095. But however, when we do the excavation for the length along the north axis, we do the length of 14.45 by width of 675. It implies that a portion about 225 mm out of the breadth of 13.45 is already excavated, which explains the reason why I made deduction for 4 number of 225, that is 1 at each corner, 1 225 here, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year externally for the external wall, which gives 0.57 cubic meter. Also, for the internal wall, the internal partition, when we do this excavation of the main external wall, we've already considered excavation. We've already excavated a portion of 225 here, and here, which explains the reason why I made deduction for 6,225 in our excavation quantity. So if you take away this deduction from our gross excavation quantity, you have net volume of 44.647. This same quantity, this same approach will be used when we are determining our leveling and compacting quantity. The only difference will be that the unit of measurement now will not be square meter, which explains why we got 46.997 square meter for our leveling and compacting. The same thing applies for our concrete foot in foundation, just as we have for our excavation, but with the only difference is the thickness of the concrete blinding, which is 50 mm, which gives us 2.35 cubic meter for our concrete blinding. Now, for our concrete foot in foundation, concrete foot, the thickness is 225 mm by width of 675. So the same thing also apply, just as we have for our concrete blinding and our excavation. The only difference will now be the thickness of our concrete foot is 225. So all this, we take away all this deduction for junction, which it will have been an excess, it will have been an overmeasurement on our quantity, assuming we don't make deduction from them. So this explains why we need to make the right deduction. Now we need to get our block wall quantity. we use our GAT, but the depth of block work in foundation, we are dealing with 675 in foundation. So we take away 225 from 900, we have 675. So we get our block work quantity. Now to the adjustment we are dealing with, which is adjustment to balance backfilling quantity. Now, in order for us to calculate our backfilling quantity, we need to take our overall excavation quantity, which is 44.675. We then deduct the portion that concrete blending is going to display, which is just the volume of our concrete blending. Likewise, for our concrete foot, volume of our concrete foot, we convert our block wall, which is square meter, into volume by multiplying it by the width of our block wall. The width of wall, which is 225 wall. So we have the net volume of backfilling. So it means when we remove the portion of soil that we are going to backfill back into the pit, after we have already do our PCC blending, concrete foot, and block work, the remaining portion of the soil we are going to backfill into the pit forms our backfilling quantity. While the display, the soil that was displayed by PCC blending, RCC concrete, and block wall will form the excess soil we are going to remove from site. Another form, this will now lead us to another form of backfill adjustment, which is adjustment for openings. For openings, that is adjustment for our doors and windows and their lintel and its subsequent addition as revealed in finishes, as explained here. So the first thing is for us to determine our block work quantity, which is we multiply our GAT by the height of the building to get a gross square meter of 215. Now we need to make deduction for doors and windows. Here we are dealing with door of 1.2 meter by 2.1. We have two number of them. So that is why we have 1.2 by 2.1 for door. Likewise, window, we have window of 2.4 by 1.2, two number of them. And their lintel, we can combine the two together. 1.2 plus 0.45 is for door, while 2.4 plus 0.45 is for window. And since their height is 0.225, both of them, we can actually consider them together. And both of them, they are both two numbers. So the total deduction we are going to make from our block wall for openings, that is door, window, and lintel from our block wall, that is the portion that we are going to put other form of material that we are not going to put block wall in our wall. So is about 12.825 square meters. So if we deduct this from our gross block wall area of 215, we will have the net area of block wall, which is 202.8 square meter. Now, this same adjustment, we need to now make provision for them as a reveal in our finishes. So that is why we have them. We calculate our plastering quantity also. Just the same approach with how to get our block wall, with the only difference is you have two sides now to plaster, which give us 431.25 gross square meter. So we make deduction for our doors and window as well, but we are not going to make deduction for lintel, but because we are still going to plaster our lintel also, that is why we are not making deduction for lintel. But we need to add for our reveal. That is why we have door reveal and window reveal. That is the portion of the reveal of the door we are going to put plaster at the side of the door and the side of the window. So for the door reveal, we have 2.1, which is the height of the door in two places, plus the width of the door, it gives us 5.4. Then the width of the wall is 225 wall. So we multiply it to get the equivalent in square meter. So we had the reveal for doors and window, and we deduct the total, we deduct the openings for doors and window. The net area for plastering will be 415.32 square meter. So likewise, this reveal quantity, we need to consider them also, assuming we want to use tiles as our final finishing item for this wall. So the same quantity of applies for doors and window, just as we have for plastering, because it's actually the same area we are going to put tiles, which translates to 5.67 square meter that we are going to have for our wall tiling. Another form of adjustment is adjustment to remove pockets from concrete quantity and subsequent addition for its provision as a work item. To explain this, we need to, on our drawing, we have a length of 14.45 by a width of 13.45, but we have pocket, 3 numbers of them and 1 void. So if you consider, you determine our volume for gray slab, which is 14.45 by 13.45, and gray slab of 150 mm thick, we have volume of 29.153. So now we need to make deduction for our pocket, 3 numbers of them, pocket of 1 meter by 450 mm. We have 3 numbers of them. So we, in 3 places, so give us the net volume. Void also 2 meter by 6 meter by 150. This will give us 1.8 cubic meter. So the net volume for our RCC concrete will be 27.15. Now we need to also, after we remove pocket from our concrete volume, we need to also consider them, because pocket it takes a special skill from a carpenter. They need to do it properly. Hence, the contractor also is due for money for fixing them. That is why I have fixed 1 meter by 450 by 150 mm pocket, 3 numbers of them here. We have 3 numbers of pockets, so we have 3 numbers of them. So it's just a matter of determining how much you are going to price 1 pocket. Let's say at the rate of 1,005. So because the carpenter, they also need to do it. So it's a form of, another form of form work, where it takes a specialized job that they will form it and put it concrete before they do the casting. So that is why we have pocket as a special item here. So another form of adjustment that we also will discuss is adjustment for bar lap or reinforcement beyond 12 meter. So just as we explained, our length is 13.45, but the standard length that we can find on site on the market is less than 12 meter. So because of that, and the contractor will need to provide, let's say, a member of, as we have on this drawing, our member is 13.45 and our distribution bar is 14.45. So if we take away cover of 0.1 meter and hard return of 0.1, we have the cut length of 13.45 as our cut length for the member. Now, for their number, if we take our breadth, if we take our length of 14.55, less our cover, we have 14.35. We divide by, let's say, spacing of 250 that we assume in this job. So we have 59 number. But because the standard length we can get in the market is only about less than 12 meter, and contractor will need to join some bar together to get the required length of 13.45 as required by the client. Therefore, there is need for us to add what we call bar lap, which is most times you can say is 50 multiplied by diameter. In this case, the diameter we are dealing with is 12 mm, which is equal to 0.6 meter here. So if you ensure you follow standard on site, the cut length of your bar lap is going to be in the region of 500, 600 thereabout, depending on the diameter of the reinforcement you are dealing with. So that is why we have bar lap here for main bar, 0.6 meter cut with 0.6 meter length, the same numbers of 59. So the same thing apply for the distribution bar, the cut length of 14.445. We also have a bar lap of 0.6 meter, the same number of 55 number. So if you consider all these adjustments, for example, if you fail to remove the excesses, let's say we fail to remove the void and pocket from our grade slab concrete. That means about 2 cubic meter of concrete. Contractor will be getting about 2 cubic meter of concrete that he's not supposed to get. Let's say at the rate of 60,000 naira. That will be translated to about 120,000 naira. And at the same time, if we don't add for bar lap, that means the contractor will be getting about 61 kilogram. Let's say at the rate of 600 naira, he will be getting that less from his certificate or in the BOQ that the quantity surveyor produce. So before I conclude, I would also like to point out we should ensure that our taking off is as practical as possible. For instance, in a southwest region of Nigeria where we have a very good soil, that may not be need for us to make provision for disposal of water, either trench water and earthwork support in our taking off. But if it's the same type of job, you are doing the same type of job in another region in Nigeria, let's say the Niger Delta region where we have swampy soil, it's a must for the QS to consider disposal of water and probably earthwork support in order to ensure safety on site. So the conventional belief of capturing certain work items, such as surface treatment, oversight excavation, may not be required. For example, where we have a makeup level, there may not be need for you to do trench excavation. There may not be need for you to do any excavation. If at all you want to do excavation, it may be a shallow excavation because it's a makeup area. So we should ensure that our taking off is as practical as possible. So in conclusion, adjustments are important for us so that the contractor adjustments are necessary to remove excess or hard and omitted work item in our already measured work quantity. They are required to avoid over or under measurement because they translate into undue money received or lost by a contractor or clients. Thank you for listening.